So imagine this, Joe sitting across from someone, maybe sipping on that black coffee, and they say, you know, Islam, it's not what the media says. It's not about chaos. It's about peace. Boom. Silence. Joe leans in like, wait, say that again, because the world has been spoon-fed a story, the kind that makes your heart beat with fear, not understanding. But what if that story's just wrong? What if real Islam, the deep, disciplined, calm, rooted version of it, is one of the most misunderstood forces on the planet? And here's the kicker. This isn't coming from someone trying to convert you. It's coming from logic, history, facts, actual conversations with people who live it every day. This ain't about politics. This is about the truth that doesn't make headlines because it doesn't sell fear. It sells peace. You ever seen a lion just chill in the sun? Calm, strong, unmoved? That's what true Islam looks like when you strip the noise away. So buckle in, because if Joe Rogan actually heard this breakdown, he wouldn't just be shocked. He'd probably want to book another 3-hour podcast on it. Discipline equals freedom. That sounds like a contradiction at first, right? Like, how can rules and structure ever feel like freedom? But think about it. Look at the people who are truly free in this world. Not just rich, not just successful, but free in their mind, their body, their actions. They wake up early, they eat with purpose, they train when no one's watching, they move with clarity. They're not slaves to cravings, not addicted to chaos, not lost in endless distractions. They have systems, they have control, and control, real control, is power. Now take a look around at the average person. They hit snooze 5 times, rush to work, eat whatever's closest, spend their breaks scrolling through noise, then wonder why they feel trapped. It's not because they lack opportunity, it's because they lack discipline. They're prisoners of comfort. And comfort, when it rules you, becomes a silent cage. It's soft, it's warm, but it's a trap. The world tells you to follow your feelings, do whatever makes you happy in the moment. But the people who only chase feelings, they end up confused, stuck, burnt out, because freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about having the strength to do what you should. Discipline is the quiet force that reshapes your life without anyone noticing at first. It's waking up at 5 a.m. when your bed feels like heaven. It's turning down junk food when your body screams for it. It's choosing to read instead of binge, choosing to walk away from gossip, choosing silence when anger wants to speak. And that choice, over and over again, builds a kind of strength that nothing can break. It builds you. Think of musician, the freedom to play anything, to improvise, to create art that moves hearts, that only comes after hours and years of disciplined practice. Scales, drills, repetition. Boring stuff. Same with a fighter. You don't become a killer in the cage by throwing random punches. You train your stance, your breathing, your focus. It's thousands of tiny moments that no one claps for. Discipline is the cost of mastery. But once you pay it, you get something most people never taste: freedom. Because when you've disciplined yourself, you don't get shaken by temptation. You don't chase chaos. You move with a different kind of calm. You become your own anchor. Look at the gym. Everyone wants the results, the shredded abs, the strength, the confidence. But very few want the reps, the soreness, the discipline. They want the prize without the process. But life doesn't work that way. And the ones who learn that early, they win, not just in fitness, but in everything. The body follows the mind. And when your mind is trained through discipline, your life starts to bend in your direction. Discipline doesn't make you a robot. It makes you a warrior, someone who can walk into chaos and stay calm, someone who doesn't need external motivation, because the fire is already burning inside. And that fire, it can't be bought. It's built, brick by brick, decision by decision. Now think about fasting, going without food and water, not just for diet or trend, but as a discipline of the soul. It's not just about hunger. It's about control. It's about training your body to listen to your mind, not the other way around. And once you master that, you don't just gain spiritual points. You gain control over your impulses. You gain freedom from being a slave to cravings. You become sharper, lighter, stronger. Discipline isn't punishment. It's a love letter to your future self. It's saying, I care about you enough to put in the work today so you can live better tomorrow. It's saying, I choose progress over comfort. And once you make that choice daily, something insane happens. You start walking with power, not loud power, silent power. The kind that doesn't need to shout. It just exists. People feel it when you enter a room. They feel it in how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you handle stress. You stop reacting to life. You start directing it. Every time you train when you're tired, Every time you say no to distractions, every time you choose the hard thing over the easy one, you are building a version of yourself that the old you would be proud of, that your enemies would fear, that your friends would respect. Discipline is freedom because it unlocks everything that's real. The noise fades, the truth stays, and the truth is, once you've tasted that kind of self-control, no drug, no dollar, no distraction can ever control you again. Fear is a product of ignorance, not evil, not truth, not instinct, just ignorance. Think about it. How many times in your life have you been scared of something, only to find out later that it was nothing at all? Remember being a kid, lying in bed at night, staring at the dark corner of your room, thinking there's something there? Maybe a monster, maybe a ghost. Your heart would race, your breath would get heavy. The fear was real. But what was the monster? It was your jacket hanging on a chair. It was shadows. It was your mind filling in the blanks with stories. That's ignorance, not stupidity. Ignorance, a lack of knowing. Take that same pattern and apply it to your life right now. You fear what you don't understand. You fear the unknown, the unfamiliar, the different. And when people fear something deeply, they start to build walls around it. They label it. They attack it, not because they're evil, but because it's easier to judge than to learn. It's easier to point fingers than to open a book, have a conversation, sit in silence and listen. And this is exactly what has happened to Islam in the minds of millions of people. They've never read a page, never spoken to a practicing Muslim, never stepped inside a mosque, but they fear it. Why? Not because they understand it, but because they don't. And fear is powerful. It spreads fast. One headline, one tweet, one out of context video clip, and boom. Millions are afraid of something they've never even touched. The mind is like a sponge when it's empty. It'll soak up whatever the world pours into it. So if someone is raised on fear-based news, stories of violence, images of chaos, they start to believe the story. They never question it. They never ask, what if there's more to this? And that's the danger. Fear multiplies when ignorance is never challenged. But here's where it gets real. You can reverse fear. You can break it. How? Through knowledge, through exposure, through facing what you don't know and replacing it with understanding. Imagine someone walking into a mosque for the first time, nervous, unsure, expecting judgment or hate, and instead they're greeted with warmth, with calm, with community. Suddenly the fear dissolves, not because anything changed in the world, but because something changed in their perception, because fear is not the enemy, ignorance is. And once you shine light on ignorance, the fear runs away like a shadow. Look at people who travel. The more countries you see, the more people you talk to, the more you realize how similar we all are. Love, family, purpose, food, laughter, it's the same across the world. The accents change, the rituals change, but the heart stays the same, and the people who travel a lot, they fear less because they've seen more, they know more. They don't fall for surface level narratives. They dig deeper. That's what knowledge does. It gives you vision. And when you can see clearly, fear loses its grip. Apply this to your daily life. You fear that business move because you don't understand the market. You fear the gym because you've never trained before. You fear speaking up because you've never heard your own voice in a room full of silence. But what if you just stepped in, not even to succeed, just to learn? What if you read a book on finance and the fear of going broke started to shrink? What if you took one fitness class and the fear of weakness faded? What if you had one honest conversation with someone different from you and the fear of them transformed into understanding? You don't need to conquer the world. You just need to remove the blindfold. Fear screams, knowledge whispers. Fear pushes you back. Knowledge pulls you forward. The most dangerous people in the world are the ones who choose to stay ignorant because they become tools for fear to spread. But the most powerful people, they're the ones who chase understanding. They don't react, they observe, they ask, they learn. And in doing so, they become immune to fear-based narratives. Their minds become sharp, calm, unshakable. When someone says something controversial, the ignorant one panics. The informed one investigates. When life throws a curveball, the ignorant one crumbles. The informed one adapts. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being brave enough to ask the right questions. And when you do that over and over, fear becomes a signal, not a sentence. It becomes a light showing you where you still need to grow. And that mindset, that shift is what separates the average from the aware. Media doesn't sell peace. It never has. Peace is quiet. Peace is slow. Peace doesn't break your screen or raise your pulse. But chaos sells. Chaos goes viral. It's loud, it's emotional, it keeps you hooked. The media isn't evil, it's just a business. And like any business, it feeds what sells, and what sells in today's world isn't balance, understanding, or truth. It's conflict, division, fear, drama. You can live in a peaceful neighborhood for 20 years, but one fight outside a grocery store, one shocking clip, and suddenly people think your entire town is dangerous, not because of the truth, but because of the angle. Because that one moment got more clicks than the thousands of peaceful days combined. Think about how news is structured. Breaking news banners, flashing red graphics, urgent voices, panic-filled headlines. It's a performance. It's designed to make you feel like the world is on fire. And when you feel that, you stay tuned. You scroll. You engage. It's not about informing you anymore. It's about keeping you emotionally charged so you keep consuming. And guess what suffers in that process? Peace. Reason, clarity. Look at social media. The calmest voices, the wisest minds, the most balanced thoughts. They're often buried under a pile of outrage, trolling, and viral arguments. If someone posts a video about kindness, understanding, or community building, it might get a few likes, but someone screams about a controversial topic, adds some insults, maybe throws in a lie or two, and suddenly it's trending, not because it's true, but because it triggers something, and when people are triggered, they share, they comment, they fight, and the algorithm loves that. So peace gets drowned. It becomes invisible. Now look at how Islam is covered in the media. When something bad happens and someone with a Muslim name is involved, it's everywhere. It's breaking news. It's flashing. It's repeated again and again. But when a Muslim saves lives, opens shelters, feeds the poor, brings communities together, that story barely gets a footnote, not because it's less important, but because peace doesn't provoke the same reaction. It doesn't spark outrage. And without outrage, there's no engagement, no advertising revenue, no viral storm. So the peaceful side of Islam, the real side, the 1 billions live every day. It gets buried. Imagine a man who prays 5 times a day, treats his neighbors with kindness, works honestly, raises his children with love and patience. There are millions like him, but his story won't trend. No cameras follow him because he's not controversial. He doesn't create division. He lives in peace. And that kind of life doesn't fit the media's business model. Now imagine one clip from a war zone, one outburst of violence taken out of context, no backstory, no understanding, and it spreads like wildfire. People see that and assume that's the whole truth. They don't ask questions. They just feel fear, and that fear becomes their lens. They look at an entire faith, an entire people through a 15-second clip on the internet. But what if the media decided to shift? What if platforms started promoting stories of peace, of healing, of people rising above conflict and choosing unity? What if peace became the headline? People would feel less anxious. They'd sleep better. They'd trust more. They'd love more. But the clicks would drop. And that's the catch. Peace doesn't keep people addicted. Fear does. Conflict does. So peace gets sacrificed on the altar of attention. In your own life, think about the conversations that get the most attention. If you tell your friends a calm, uplifting story, it might pass with a smile. But tell them about a fight you saw, a scandal, a dramatic failure, suddenly everyone's listening. That's the media mentality. And it's trained us to crave negativity. We scroll for it. We expect it. We feed on it without realizing it's poisoning our view of the world. So when you hear about any group, any belief system, any culture, any faith, ask yourself, am I seeing the full picture? Or am I just seeing what sells? Peace won't come to your screen. You have to search for it. You have to listen to real people, not just headlines. You have to think beyond the viral. Because the media might not sell peace, but peace is still out there. Real living, breathing in everyday lives. You just won't find it in the places that are chasing numbers over truth. Islam's code is about respect, not fear, not submission in the way people often misunderstand it, but deep, powerful, consistent respect. It's not just something you show in a religious setting or during a prayer. It's a full lifestyle, a way of moving through the world with awareness. It starts from the moment you wake up. Respect for time, for your body, for the breath you take, for the people around you, for the words you speak, for the food you eat. It's a mindset. It's discipline wrapped in intention. It's the kind of respect that turns ordinary people into quiet forces of strength. Imagine someone walking into a room and not needing to say a word, because the way they carry themselves already speaks volumes. They lower their gaze not out of weakness, but out of honor. They listen more than they speak, not because they're afraid, but because they value others. That's not submission to people. That's respect trained into the soul. And when you live like that, you don't just build character. You become unforgettable. You start with respect for your creator, not just in ritual, but in how you treat what you've been given. Your body isn't just yours to waste. It's a trust. So you move with care. You eat with purpose. You stay clean. You don't overindulge. You don't disrespect your body with substances or laziness. You don't treat it like a landfill. That's why people who live by this code carry themselves differently. There's a calm in them, a self-awareness, because they're not running from themselves. They're in sync. Respect flows into how you treat others, whether they're your family, your neighbor, the guy who bags your groceries, the person who cuts you off in traffic. Everyone gets dignity, and that doesn't mean being weak or letting people walk over you. It means not sinking to their level when they try to provoke you. It means not meeting fire with fire when you can respond with water. Think of the last time someone disrespected you. Maybe you wanted to shout back, throw a punch, get even. But the one who lives with respect doesn't waste their energy on ego. They protect their peace. They walk away when needed. They hold their ground when it matters, not out of pride, but out of principle. Islam's code teaches that even a smile is a form of charity. Think about that. Something as small, as simple, as effortless as a smile, counted as a good deed. Why? Because it spreads kindness. It shows respect for another person's humanity. And in a world where everyone's moving fast, chasing success, drowning in screens, that one moment of respect can shift someone's whole day, maybe even their life. Respect shows up in the smallest details. How you enter a room, how you greet your elders, how you speak when someone's not around, how you dress, not to impress others, but to reflect dignity, how you give space to people, even when you're right, even when you could win an argument. Because winning isn't always about being louder. Sometimes it's about being wiser, and then there's respect for time. Time is sacred. Every second that passes is a piece of your life you'll never get back. So you don't waste it. You don't scroll your life away. You don't live on autopilot. You plan. You wake up with intention. You pray on time, not just because it's required, but because it trains you to master your hours instead of letting them slip through your fingers. When you live like that, you become sharp, disciplined, reliable. And people start to trust you, not because of what you say, but because of how you move. Respect extends to money, too. You earn it clean. You spend it wisely. You give it generously. You don't flash it to feel powerful. You don't chase it at the cost of your soul. You respect it because you know it's a test, not a trophy. You know it's not about how much you have, but what you do with it. And when people live like this, they're not easily manipulated. They can't be bought because their self-worth doesn't depend on numbers in a bank account. It depends on how well they live their values. Even animals are given respect in this code. You're not allowed to harm them for fun, overwork them, starve them. You're even taught to show kindness to a thirsty dog on the street. That's not weakness, that's strength. The kind of strength the world doesn't show on billboards. The kind of strength that makes a person truly powerful from the inside out. And the beautiful thing is, this code of respect doesn't depend on anyone else's behavior. It's not a trade. It's not, I'll respect you if you respect me. It's I respect because it's who I am. And when you live like that, when respect becomes your default mode, you don't just change how people see you. You change how you see yourself. Because every action becomes intentional. Every word becomes measured. Every day becomes meaningful. So here we are, at the end of a journey most people never take, standing face to face with the truth that rarely gets a spotlight in a world flooded with noise, misunderstanding, fear, and endless headlines. It's easy to forget that some of the most powerful things are also the quietest, like inner peace, like respect, like discipline, like the kind of strength that doesn't shout but shows up silently, day after day, choice after choice. And in that silence, something profound happens. You start to see what really matters, not the noise, not the chaos, not the rumors or the fear, but the core of it all, the truth that never needed to scream to be real. They told you Islam was terror. They told you it was conflict. They told you to be afraid. But fear is a lie when it's built on ignorance, and peace becomes invisible when the lens is dirty. So clean the lens, look again, not with borrowed opinions, but with your own eyes. Because the truth isn't afraid of questions. The truth invites them. The truth stands tall even when the whole world tries to bury it. And when you finally look deeper, when you ask the questions no one else dares to ask, you'll see it, something unshakable, something timeless, something real. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's a power in being calm when the world is angry. There's a strength in being disciplined when the world is distracted. There's a light in being respectful when the world is loud, disrespectful, and proud of it. That's the warrior's path, not the one who conquers cities, but the one who conquers himself. That's the code of true Islam, not to dominate others, but to dominate the self. Not to fight for ego, but to fight for balance, for justice, for peace. Remember this, you were not born to just wake up, scroll, repeat. You were born to rise. You were born to seek, to learn, to question, to understand. You were born to live a life with depth, not just speed. And the one who walks through life with purpose, with patience, with a calm fire in their heart, that person doesn't need to convince anyone of their worth. They already know, they already carry it. And when the storm comes, and it will, they don't panic. They become the eye of the storm. Calm, grounded, unshakable. Don't be the echo, be the voice. Don't be the reaction, be the reason. The world will keep spinning its stories, pushing its fears, selling its chaos. But you don't have to buy it. You don't have to live small just because others are afraid of living big. The ones who change the world are not the ones who fit in. They're the ones who stand out, who walk with silence in a noisy room, who carry peace like armor, who wear discipline like a crown. They're not perfect, they're human, but they're intentional, and that makes all the difference. Be like water, soft but strong, calm but powerful, quiet but unstoppable. Water doesn't need permission to carve through mountains. It just keeps flowing. You don't need validation to live with truth. Just keep walking, keep learning, keep growing. Let the world be loud, you be steady. Let others chase the moment. You build legacy, because in the end, it's not about who was the loudest. It's about who stayed grounded, who stood for something real, who walked with purpose even when the road was lonely. Greatness is not built in comfort, it's built in consistency. Peace is not the absence of struggle. It's the presence of clarity, and clarity comes when you stop running, when you sit with truth, when you stop listening to the noise and start listening to your soul. You don't need to be like everyone else. You need to be like the best version of you, because that version, the one who knows what they stand for, who moves with intention, who lives with respect and discipline, that version can't be shaken. That version is rare. That version is powerful. And that version is already inside you, waiting for you to choose it, not someday, but now.